Okay,
Nice.
yeah, you are live now for sure. I see your channel just popped up on my end. So I'll let you do a quick intro for your guys.
Okay, well, if we've started on my end, this is a first for us. We're trying to multi-stream together. So I'm here with Paul from Fandomology, formerly the Star Wars
Yep.
guys. And we're talking about Ahsoka. We're breaking it down. I normally have my live show on Monday nights, which Paul is a frequent guest. And yeah, we're talking about Ahsoka. We've so far covered some of the characters, some of the things that we like, how it's basically Rebels Season 5 in all of the best ways, some of the things that we didn't like as much, and we're just going to continue the discussion. So get active in the chat, comment your things that you guys liked as well, and let's keep
Yeah.
this rolling.
So to get the people that are watching on Tim's channel up to speed, long story short, I do like this show a lot. I think each episode individually, I'm ranking it about an 8.5 out of 10. And so far, we've talked about how good the characters are, how well Ray Stevenson plays Balin, and how well Rosario Dawson's playing Ahsoka, and the actress that's playing Sabine is doing that, and so on and so forth. And we were just cutting up about what if the faraway galaxy that Thrawn went to. Black Dragon comes in here and says, "Hey,
Nice, I
coffee with
love it.
Korriban seems like I just saw you."
Cool, so at least we know
Yep.
that it is streaming to both channels. Nice,
So it
I like
works.
that.
Cool. But no, going back to it, another thing we find out about Morgan is that she is a Night Sister. And I know some people had theorized that back when we had seen her in Mando Season 2. I wasn't buying it at first, but it's cool that they do that, and that we do see her, I guess, do some form of Night Sister magic with that little
Yes.
ball map thingy.
And the way that she did that was different than one would if they were using the Force. So there's definitely
Yeah.
some sorcery involved that's separate from using the Force. I thought that was really cool.
Like, I don't know if you noticed it, but when she was using the ball thing, there was like a green flame that came up underneath it and lifted it. That reminded me so much of that green wispy stuff that would happen in the Clone Wars when the Night Sisters were doing their magic.
Yep.
So
Yeah, very cool. I
so
just
the
like
Night
the
Sisters,
location of that as well. And that location is something I definitely want to talk about as well, of like the scenery and the settings and stuff. But
yes.
the Night Sister Temple was very cool.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And the droids that attacked, Darren says, "Now I'm torn as to which stream I need to watch."
It's the exact
Watch us
same
both.
thing.
Give us both
Watch
the
them
watch
both.
hours.
Yeah.
Black Dragon says she does look more like a typical Night Sister in this than she did in the Mando episode. Maybe that's because, like in Star Trek with, the other aliens, maybe it's because they were getting like her makeup down better in this.
Yeah, it's subtle changes. We've seen that before in these shows from season to season, that they do subtle makeup changes, subtle changes to the armor. Like a certain piece will, be fit together slightly differently, just subtle changes over time. That could definitely be an example of that, in that they're modifying her outfit, makeup, something like that, to give her that appearance. So that's very possible.
Right. So yeah, basically the first episode is with Ahsoka finding the map, but then it gets taken away by Shin and the droids. They attack Sabine because Sabine stole it from Ahsoka. And we see a short lightsaber fight between Sabine and Shin. Here's where we get to the major problem that I have.
Yes.
Sabine, Black Dragon's already mentioned it. Sabine gets stabbed and she faints. Episode 1 ends. Episode 2 begins and she's in the hospital. She's fine. We even see the scar. Disney, please stop having people get stabbed with lightsabers and surviving. You are weakening the lightsaber.
Yes, absolutely. So, to something that Black Dragon said way earlier in the comments, about the location of where she got stabbed, it was not. No, it was way earlier. It was not center chest.
It was like
lower side abdomen, because we are shown the scar at a later point. So I'm of two minds about this. First, I'm with you. Disney, stop doing that. How hard would it have been for her to get like a little slice on the arm and a little slice on the leg, sort of how Obi-Wan got against Count Dooku, and incapacitated, right? That's all you needed to do.
Or
stop stabbing them in the exactly. Stop stabbing them in the stomach and having them survive. Now, on the other side, if we are going to assume that under Disney stabs are survivable, this would be a pretty good candidate for that. It was lower abdomen to the side. If we think about it roughly comparatively to a gunshot wound, that's probably a better place to get shot than anywhere else in the torso. Mm-hmm. So, I'm of two minds about it. Disney, stop it. But also, it's not a big issue to me.
Right. Rod Priester says, today I was walking down the street and I accidentally got stabbed with a lightsaber. Thank goodness I was able to finish out my day and move on. And that's the thing. It's bad enough that this happens just in this show, but this is not even close to the first time we've seen this.
Yeah,
we saw this.
I saw a little 4-panel thing of all the times that's happened.
Mm-hmm. We've seen this with Kylo Ren in Rise of Skywalker. We've seen this with Cal Kestis in Jedi Fallen Order. I haven't played Jedi Survivor yet, by the way, so I don't know if it happens there too. We've seen it with the Grand Inquisitor in Kenobi. We've seen it with Reva in Kenobi twice. And now we've seen it here. This is 7 times that I know of that someone has been stabbed with a lightsaber and has survived. At this point, what's different from the lightsaber than a pool noodle?
I mean, the price, for one.
That is true. That is true.
I absolutely see your point. It cheapens certain moments like Qui-Gon. That's the one everyone's comparing it to.
Yeah.
And they have the last few times this has happened. So Disney, just stop doing that, please.
Yeah.
But again, it's not a huge issue for me. I'm not getting caught up on that.
Yeah. Like I said, it does not ruin my love of the whole show. I still like it in spite of that, but I can't get past that. So Disney, you are a big
dummy. Yeah. Yeah. Dummy. Yeah. Yeah. Dummy. Yeah. Yeah.
I've never seen that before. I love it.
That is the wrestler now known as LA Knight. That was back when he was in TNA.
That is so funny. I've never seen that before. I like it. You've probably got all kinds of little clips that I haven't seen yet.
Oh yeah. Most of them I got from Pacific. Like, I could have used this one tonight, but I didn't.
It stinks.
But of course, I have classic ones on here too. Like, I have my version of this.
For that detour, getting back to the story.
Yeah, back to Punch Face.
Yes. Yep. I'm just gonna call him that for the rest of the episode. So,
I'm gonna rush in and punch his face.
So Padme and Punch Face
I'm gonna punch him right in the Clovis.
Wait, where's that on the bottom?
Oh, it's classic. My old studio too. Studio.
Yeah. I remember that studio.
Yeah. I like this place much better.
Episode 2 begins, like I said, with them in the hospital and Sabine trying to get data out of this droid's head that Ahsoka found at Sabine's house. And this leads to Ahsoka and Hera paying a visit to the Corellian shipyards. And I'm willing to bet you really liked that scene. Because you're all about that world building, aren't you?
Yes, but I do see Dan the man
What's up?
in the comments. Good to see you. We're multi-streaming right now, like combined together. So this is Paul's stream, but I don't know, we're making it work together. It's good to see that it's working and actually bringing in both people. I like this.
Absolutely. Also, hello to Crit, who says, Ahsoka so far is a mixed bag. Episode 1 was a bore fest, fell asleep halfway before I woke up to, Sabine, fighting in a parking lot and getting stabbed a la Disney style. He says, Episode 2 was fine, but just overall this show felt like Filoni looked at Andor and said, I can do that too, but didn't understand the things that made the show so compelling.
Fair.
I can definitely see that.
I've got nothing to say against that. That's fair. I mean, Andor was a bore fest for some people, not for me. It gave it time to breathe and focus on the actual legitimacy of each situation and the characters and the dialogue and the drama. And to me, this show is taking a little bit of that from Andor, and also a little bit of the levity and the more adventure aspect of it from the Mandoverse. And for me, it's a good blend of it. But I have seen a lot of criticism against it from a lot of people saying that it is boring.
Right.
Deal with it. We're getting to know these characters. We're exploring the relationship between Ahsoka and Sabine at this point. I mean, unless you fall asleep and wake up to a parking lot fight. But if you're actually taking this time to get to know where their characters are, then we can have time for an arc.
Right.
Yeah, the character arcs that we got in Andor and the character arcs that I believe we're going to get in here are far better than anything we've gotten in the Mando movies or shows, because there's not enough time to build those up.
Right. Dan also says, also Ahsoka is the greatest discovery since the splitting of the atom. Wow. That is a claim.
Nice.
So...
All right, well, good to see you, dude. Have a great rest of your night.
Good night, man. But it's interesting, though, we get more... Okay, so that one episode from Mando Season 3 that had Jack Black and Lizzo, the one good thing about that episode that I can say is Christopher Lloyd's character showing that he was still a separatist sympathizer, and he had his reasons for that and he acted upon it. We get something kind of like that here, except we have people working these shipyards that are still clearly loyal to the Empire. And Ahsoka and Hera have something of a conversation like that, where Hera's wondering, how can these people still be loyal to the Empire? And Ahsoka makes a good point. They're not loyal to the Empire truly. They're just motivated by greed.
Yeah. I mean, people that can be bought are dangerous people.
Exactly.
Because they'll adopt whatever motives of whoever's paying their bills.
That is true. And then to further build upon that, we then see a literal, I guess you could say, Grand Theft hyperdrive or something. And to cover for it, this one random console worker
GTH, the next Star
popping
Wars
off,
game,
shouting for the Empire, and of course he gets cut down quick. But
yeah, that was nice how they dispatched those people real quick. I like that.
Yeah. But then that leads to Hera and Chopper chasing after the ship in, the Phantom, while Ahsoka faces against more of those droids and that Inquisitor guy, which I have a theory about who that really is.
What, Ezra?
No.
That's what I've heard some other people mention.
I think that is Barriss Offee.
Oh.
Because we've never truly gotten closure on her story.
Yes, and I totally forgot about her, because this is when they announced the Ahsoka show. That was one of the things that people were talking about. Are we going to get Barriss back in the show?
Right.
So very cool if that's the case. I can't wait to see how it plays out. Now it sounds we're talking about modern politics. Yes, and speaking of modern politics, I'm missing the debates right now to be here, so I hope you guys are happy.
Much.
No. Actually, the little bit of I saw was actually pretty entertaining.
Okay. Darren says, I'll admit that in the first episode, I wasn't a fan of the ceremony, but when I learned about the characters, it made sense and it made me appreciate it. Also, hello to Dat Boy Steve. He's in your chat. He says, here's a sip of Mountain Dew for you. I
Cool.
will respond with a sip of sweet tea.
I detest sweet tea. It is the most disgusting drink I've ever had the displeasure of putting in my mouth.
Oh my goodness, and you're living in Tennessee right now.
Yes, and so I've said this on my channel before, but when I moved from California to Tennessee, one of the biggest culture shocks for me was that iced tea means sweet tea. That's not the case in California. When you ask for an iced tea, you get unsweetened tea. You have to specifically go out of your way to ask for sweet tea or with sugar or something like that. Here, you have to say unsweetened tea to get unsweetened tea. And even then, there's about a 50% chance that they will still give you sweet tea. So I have to go out of my way to say unsweetened tea with no sugar. And even then, they've still given me sweet tea before. And the looks that I get,
wow.
I mean, these people have pure hatred for me. And I even put on my fake Tennessee accent when I order this.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a huge culture shock for me. And obviously that's a minor thing compared to, where I lived and where I'm living now. But yeah, big thing. I cannot stand sweet tea. And yeah, big culture shock coming over here. So unsweetened tea with no sugar. Best lightsaber choreography by Disney so far. Probably talking about the Inquisitor and Ahsoka.
Yes, I would say second place personally, because even though I don't like Kenobi, I will say that the choreography that Obi-Wan and Anakin had in that flashback training scene, I would say that's better.
Was good,
but then again, those guys have the practice.
Yeah. Arnold Palmer's are good. Let's see what Everest says.
Who's Arnold Palmer again?
He was the golfer. The drink is half tea, half lemonade.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've had that. Crit says, during the fight scene between Bad Guy Jedi and Sabine, you can see the seam between the volume and the set. Very cheap that they didn't bother to CGI over that.
Yeah, yes, you're right. There are a few issues with that make it obvious they're using the volume. One thing that we were talking about in my Discord server was who was it that brought it up? I think Ozzy Star Wars Nerd was the one who mentioned, for things that are out of focus in the background of shots, they should be blurred, right? This Tarkin behind me is blurred. If I move and it focuses on Tarkin, it should crisp up and become in focus. So objects in the back should be out of focus. There were lights in the background of certain shots that should be blurred, as we would expect. They were pixelated. Like you could see the edge of the pixels that were added in there. The photos in my Discord server, if you guys want to go check it out, Aussie Star Wars Nerd posted it earlier. Yeah. But issues like that, just with the CGI and the editing, that it does seem cheap. Now, I didn't notice any of those things as I was watching them, but a lot of other people did. So we have to acknowledge it. It's there. Aiden, good to see you. Night Wizards. That is you, right, Aiden? Night Wizard 63. A lot of people have different Discord versus YouTube names, so I think that's Aiden.
I'm looking through your Discord now. I'm going to try if I can find those pictures. I will.
Yeah, it should be in the. It might be in the spoilers section.
Spoilers. Okay, I'm looking.
In the spoilers text channel. I'm gonna try to find it too.
Okay, let me.
Yes. Yeah. Go into spoilers. It's one of the recent posted ones.
Okay. Here they are. I found them. So let me bring this on screen here. This is an example that Aussie Star Wars nerd, hello by the way, said that the lights, yeah, that is very pixelated.
Yeah, so obviously those lights in the background should be out of focus, right? Again, like the Tarkin behind me, like the painting behind me should be out of focus and blurred, smoothly blurred. That is pixels that are added. And I'm not saying that it is definitively that. It could be a bitrate issue on whoever was watching whatever on whatever device when this screenshot was taken. But that looks bad.
Yeah, it does.
And it wasn't the only issue like that I saw.
Yeah.
Some issues with the color grading as well.
Yeah, Crit, that one scene you're talking about in that fight, do me a favor and see if you can screenshot that, because I want to see that. So, getting back to that second episode, though, we get a talk between... We get more into the whole thing of Sabine and Ahsoka and how they're no longer training, but Hera wants them to get back together. And ultimately, Sabine is convinced to go back, and we get that scene where she's rummaging through her things. She gets her armor out. We also get that scene earlier where Huyang, Huyang, thank you. Where Huyang comments on Sabine's or Ezra's saber and how Sabine's made modifications to it, so now it's technically hers. And just kind of everyone is kind of pushing the two together, you guys work together, you should get back, training together. And ultimately, it's enough to convince both of them. We get that scene where Sabine cuts her hair and puts her armor back on. And we get sort of a recreation of that final scene from Rebels.
The biggest complaint my wife had was that cutting your hair like that would not result in the haircut that she had in the next scene.
Mm-hmm.
So they made it look like it was just a slice and then put on the helmet, and
right.
It doesn't work like that. That would be the weirdest haircut. Could you imagine like 2 inches short on the back, and then like long everywhere around? It would be
that would be bad. But and then to close out episode 2, we get that line, "Take us out, Padawan," where it's made like fully official.
Yes,
we're using the titles now. We're back to where we left off.
Who needs scissors when they have vibroblades?
Or lightsabers.
That's my answer.
But yeah, that's pretty much a rundown of what happened in the episodes. And now I want to get into, because we kind of already touched on it, but let's now compare this to what's come before it. Both Mando, all 3 seasons, Boba, Kenobi, and Andor. I already know what your answer is, but what would you say? How would you compare this show to Andor? What does one do better than the other? What's its strengths and weaknesses?
So, as Everest was pointing out earlier, it does seem like Ahsoka is trying to take a page out of the same playbook in going for that slower paced, character driven, little bit grittier, more realistic, if you want to call it that. I think they're doing it in a very tasteful way. Everest probably views it differently, which is, again, totally fine. And that different type of storytelling is going to hit different people differently. So all opinions are valid at this point, unless they're absolutely ridiculous, which I have seen some of those so far.
Right.
So that's how I view it compared to Andor. I prefer Andor still at this point. I may have my mind blown as we get farther into this. And then Mrs. Korriban is enjoying this at the same level as Andor, is what she was telling me so far. So she's really invested into it. I really like it compared to that. Now, compared to Mandalorian,
right,
it's miles above it for me, in my opinion. I'm fully invested in this, Mando season 1, we had nothing else to base it off of, and so we loved it. Mando season 2 was really revolutionary in a lot of ways, so we loved it. Looking back, it's a little cheesy. I mean, some of the story decisions were iffy. There was a lot of crash the ship, fix the thing, defeat the monster, leave type episodes. Very episodic.
Hey, look, Baby Yoda's cute.
Exactly. So there was a lot of Mandalorian things that didn't really age well, if we want to put it in those terms.
Right.
But I feel like in the same way that Andor was, you can call them filler episodes if you want, but I feel like every episode is going to be going towards the central goal, as opposed to this episode didn't need to happen in the first place. I think that's a big difference between the two.
Crit says, does anyone feel like the actress who plays Hera is miscast? No energy, feels like she's reading off cue cards.
I can see that.
I didn't get that sense initially. She does feel a lot lower energy than Sabine and Ahsoka do, but I didn't get that impression at first, but I can definitely see where you're coming from on that one, Chris.
And kind of like we were saying earlier, Hera didn't really stand out as much as the other characters from Rebels, so it's been a little while since I've seen Rebels, so I can't really imagine exactly what she was like. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how she progresses through the season.
Mm-hmm. So, for me, I think right now...
Got you, Night Wizard.
Right now, I'm actually preferring Ahsoka over Andor because of that mysticism element of the Force
was missing in it.
That was missing from Andor. Everything else, at least to me, is on the same level as Andor as far as the type of storytelling where it is more character driven and so on and so forth like that. But it's just that one extra element of the Force that bumps it up. And as far as everything else, Mando, Boba Fett, Kenobi, Ahsoka is vastly superior.
Yeah. I mean, the reception is pretty solid so far. I think from the average of the polls that I've seen on YouTube and from different channels, I believe it's about 80% either liked it or loved it, from what I've gathered. So most people are into it, and you've got the never Trumpers of the Star Wars fandom that are never going to like anything. And then the people that are just kind of indifferent, or maybe it didn't hit them the right way, like Black Dragon.
Darren says first 2 seasons of Mandalorian are better, and I'm assuming that's just to you, but first 2 episodes of Ahsoka are better than Mando season 3. Oh, 100% about
Fair.
Mando season 3. And
Mando season 3 did not land.
No, it did not.
Sabine feels off. At the end of Rebels, she wasn't so rash, so rebellious as she once was, but then in Ahsoka, she's back to being that. And this is, we don't know what happened in that time difference. This is what, 6 years in the future?
Mm-hmm.
And we got a little taste of she's so bitter because she was deserted by Ahsoka, is kind of what we were hinted at. So I have no problem with her character being not in line with exactly how we saw her when we last saw her 6 or 7 years prior at the end of Rebels. I don't have a problem with that. I think she's just straight out of Rebels.
One comment.
Good to see you.
Yes. There's one comment I'm trying to find. I think it came from Black Dragon. He was asking I'm trying to find it. He was asking about how much of Anakin we're going to see. And I know that on both the streams that I was part of, we touched on that. In fact, I remember distinctly one of the things that you mentioned was, in what manner will we see Anakin? Will it be a flashback? Will it be hologram? Or will it be a Force Ghost?
I think flashback is all but guaranteed. I
do too.
Force Ghost would be optimal. I think we are in need of that scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. I think personally it's going to be all 3. Because, like I said on your stream, the flashback, you already said it's pretty much a done deal at this point. We need that scene of Ahsoka and Luke talking, and then Anakin shows up. And then suppose as Ahsoka is teaching Sabine lightsaber combat, she brings out that same hologram that Ezra had, that where he's going through the the drills of Form 5. Imagine if they do that.
That would be really cool, unless that was the only Anakin we saw.
Yeah. Night Wizard says, by the way, if Reva and Sabine can survive stab wounds, then the old New Republic officer at the beginning of the first episode is still. I don't think he's still alive because he got stabbed.
No,
up the chest.
that was like up through the rib cage and out the upper back.
Yeah, no, he's dead.
Yeah, he did.
But then again, here's the thing. Another thing about that scene too. Would not his apprentice have known to stab someone there, or do you think it was just I need to stab you as quick as I can? Boom, here. I don't care where it is. Just here, you're stabbed.
Yeah. Highlight what Padawannabe says real quick.
Ooh, yes.
Sabine lost Kanan, then Ezra, then Ahsoka, and then there's all this other family, Mandalorian Empire, Dark Watch stuff that she dealt with before. Yeah. I'm surprised she's even wanting to like talk with people at this point.
That is true.
With all of that in context.
Mm-hmm.
So totally totally believable that she'd be in that place after 6 years.
And Aiden saying no one's ever gone.
No one has ever really gone.
If that captain really did survive, then I'm sorry, but the lightsaber may as well at that point just be an overpowered stun baton for like non-lethal takedowns.
Yeah. I will say I would have liked to see Ahsoka be a little bit more skillful with it when she was battling those droids, those HK droids.
I don't know.
I know they're powerful, but I don't know. I felt like she would have dispatched them a little easier.
I think what it is, and if I'm wrong, feel free to tell me, because I did not have I did not have this issue. I think what it is translating Ahsoka's move set from animation to real life, because animation.
Yeah, I did notice that as well. You're right.
But
you're right. There were a couple moves that were very Ahsoka moves that weren't maybe practical in terms of actually taking someone down, but yeah, they were of her style. So I did notice a little bit of that.
Right. But I can see where you and others might have an issue with the way that Ahsoka moves with her lightsabers.
And those are very minor things. Those are just very minor things.
Yeah. So overall, and I think this is a good place to go ahead and wrap this up, we like it, and I'm excited for next week. But do you think that they can keep this momentum going? Or do you think that it's going to crash? Or do you think it's going to get elevated? Like, where do you see it going from here?
In terms of, like, the fan appreciation?
And just the overall show quality.
Okay. I think we're going to have to be okay with the little mistakes, like the pixelations and the volume edge and stuff, and just kind of take it as we get it. Mm-hmm. I do expect the pace to slowly ramp up as we get towards the end of the season. I do expect a lot of people to fall off thinking this is a slow, boring show. It's going to have to be that way. I think the characters are going to be a very central focus in this show, as we've sort of seen so far. And I think we're going to get a lot of new interesting details about the world of Star Wars when you're bringing in a whole nother galaxy. I mean, forget about Outer Rim, Unknown Regions, Wild Space. This is 10 steps beyond that. This is a whole nother galaxy that we're exploring. I just thought of something. Yuuzhan Vong?
No, even more mind-blowing than that.
Abeloth.
Even more mind-blowing than that. What if Ahsoka somehow... I'm sure that Ahsoka herself is going to go to wherever that other galaxy is. What if the Force has a boundary to its own galaxy. And the moment that you step outside of that, you are cut off completely from the Force. And Ezra, Force sensitive, has been living in that.
Yes. So that is a very interesting thing to explore. And the Yuuzhan Vong were very similar to that because I believe they were like voids in the Force. You can't use the Force. Was it the Yuuzhan Vong or someone else?
I know they used Lamari had something like that.
Yeah, there was a whole race of people. It might be the Yuuzhan Vong where they're immune to the Force because the Force doesn't exist there.
Right.
Like there is no. It's like trying to stick a magnet to a piece of wood.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no effect there because there's nothing there for it to be. There's nothing there to be affected. So if they explore something like that, I could. A lot of cool science fiction stuff that they could bring in there. Oscar says it was the Yuuzhan Vong. So where I said that she was calling tar, but maybe that's more witchcraft than Force stuff.
I think so, because yes, Night Sister magic is at least loosely tied to the dark side, but it's not the same as full on using the Force.
Right.
So, as far as
I think it's going to get really interesting, and I think people are quickly jumping to conclusions based on 2 episodes for a premiere. I'm very happy with it, and I'm very excited. And as I said at the very beginning of the stream, I'm getting some of that excitement back to where I want to be making content in my spare time. I want to be editing videos, and I've been lacking on that in the last few months. Mm-hmm. But it's nice to be excited about this sort of stuff again.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my original question of where do I see this going, I do, basically, I like it, and I'm into it, but I'm not full on, I still have a little bit of guardedness about it, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, where I like it, but not to the point where I'm fully just getting my hopes up, only to then be possibly disappointed later.
Right, and I'm at the point. Mrs. Korriban made the point when we were talking about it that as of right now, the cautious optimism going into it has molded itself into. I hope it keeps this level throughout the series, and I'll say for me personally, if the level of quality, enjoyment, professionalism, storytelling, whatever, all those things, acting, all of that wrapped up into, one little category. If that continues the exact same level from what we got in this premiere through the rest of the season, I will be very happy with this season.
Same here.
I just don't want them to offend me now. So as long as they keep that same level throughout the series, then I saw that. That's funny. Then I'll be happy.
And Darren says, can't wait to hear what Coach and Nick think about these 2 first episodes.
Nick, I'm sure probably won't like it. But I was talking with Coach a little bit earlier today. I was texting him, kind of giving him a spoiler-free, here's kind of how to view it. Mm-hmm. And he seemed excited about it, so I can't wait to see what he thinks.
Yeah. And of course, if we're completely wrong, Coach and Nick, and either Coach hates it and Nick likes it, or you both hate it, I'm sure you'll let us know one way
we'll
or
talk.
another.
We'll talk. Yes. I'm going to try to have Coach on in the next few weeks or so. So,
Rod's Reels, which by the way just subscribed, thank you.
Oh, very cool.
When it comes to Disney Star Wars, as long as it's not objectively bad like we have experienced, I will be satisfied. And that's kind of where I'm at myself.
Yeah.
I've said it multiple times on your streams. We're never going back to the glory days of the original trilogy and the prequels. Yep. So, at this point, the best to hope for is just for it to be good in its own right.
Yep. Yeah, if it stays the same as it is in this first 2 episodes throughout the rest of the season, I'll be very happy. I'll leave it at that.
All right, so before we go, is there anything you want to plug?
I mean, if anyone hasn't subscribed to my channel, you don't have to, but if you want to talk about more Star Wars stuff. I tend to get into the deeper, more philosophical aspects of the Star Wars, and a little bit less lore, less theorizing, and more why do we like this? Why do we feel certain ways about certain things? And the world building, just the world of Star Wars is what I'm all about. I do live streams, or try to do them every Monday night. Paul is a frequent guest there, as well as some pre-recorded, edited short form content that I try to get out a couple a week. So that's what I do.
Absolutely. As far as excuse me, as far as this channel, Fandomology, I think tomorrow is going to be another Mario Kart Wii stream, so you're likely gonna, actually no, I take that back. I can't do anything tomorrow because my family's going to our county fair, so maybe Friday will be more Mario Kart Wii. And y'all know anytime I play Mario Kart Wii, I blow several gaskets. So if you're a big fan of Rage Paul, you will see Rage Paul
I don't
on
know
Friday.
if I've seen Rage Paul.
Oh, you haven't?
I don't know.
Go back and watch any Mario Kart.
I've
Wii
heard rumors.
stream. It gets pretty bad.
All right. And then also, I don't know if Paul's mentioned this, but he's coming my way next month in town. And so we might be doing some stuff in person at that time.
Yes. So if you guys have, we've already mentioned this on Tim's channel. We'll mention it here. I will put up at some point a community post asking for ideas for what sort of content you'd like to see when me and Tim get together in person, keeping in mind that a good portion of what we're doing together will be at Dollywood.
Yes.
So,
and to Darren's comment, I probably will be at Dollywood on Saturday. So.
All right. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and get out of here. So I guess there's nothing else to say, but thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'm going to steal a line from you and say that we will see you wherever we happen to see you in the galaxy.
And don't forget that the Force is female. Just kidding, it's family.
Yeah.
Do a Dolly live stream. Yeah, great idea.
Yeah.
Although I will say the cell reception, or rather the bandwidth in Dollywood is abysmal. You can't even get a web page to load. So we'll figure something out, but I'm sure we'll make it work.
Absolutely. In the meantime, see you guys later.